distance learners. Today, I just want to go over a little bit of some information about the poem that we're going to be talking about and reading today. So this poem is called Alone by Edgar Allan Poe, and this is one of my favorite poems because its message is one that I think almost all of us can relate to at some point in our lives. Maybe you relate to it today, and maybe it's something that you haven't quite experienced the feeling of yet, but at some point in your life, I think most people will feel this way at some point. And you can guess what that feeling might be based on the title. So one of the very first things we always do in my class is we take a look at a poem's title and we try to think about why it might be named that or what the title might be trying to tell us. And often a title is a hint about what the poem is about, might give us a clue about what the theme of the poem is or the topics that are discussed. And that is absolutely the case in this poem here. Before we start reading this poem, though, and talking a little bit about it, I want to give you guys some background information that will be relevant to this poem. So Edgar Allan Poe was born in the 1800s. He did not live a very long life. He died when he was 40 years old. Sorry, I'm just double checking my numbers over here. And he had a kind of difficult life in that when he was born, his father, or shortly after he was born, his father abandoned him and was no longer a part of his family. And then within the next couple of years, his mother passed away as well, leaving him an orphan. So he did not have any parental figures that were his own biological family. He was adopted informally by a family that he knew in his life. However, he lost almost all of his family at such a young age. And his adopted father, he and his adopted father did not have a good relationship at all. So basically the only person in his family was his stepmother, or his adopted mother. Not stepmother, I'm sorry. And one of the other things that's tragic about Edgar Allan Poe's life is his lack of success in schoolwork. So he did enroll in the military and then attend university, and how he was never very successful in either of those endeavors. And he attempted to marry a woman named Sarah Royster, and however the engagement was broken off, and he was very heartbroken about this, which is one of the reasons why he ended up dropping out of school. So Edgar Allan Poe has kind of a rough, just personal life in general. And so I think that is one of the things that influenced this poem. So with that, as a little bit of background information, let's go ahead and read that poem. I'm going to full screen this here so you can follow along with me. This poem is called Alone by Edgar Allan Poe. As you read, I want you to take a look at any literary devices that pop out to you, what you think the poem might be about, and anything that sticks out to you in general. All right, let's start. From childhood's hour I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. In all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, was drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still, from the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold, from the lightning and the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm and the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view. All right, this poem is very, very solemn. It deals with topics of him feeling lonely and how he feels like he's separate from everyone else in his life, and he's separate from all of the other people that he knows, and that he has a different perspective. We look at this first chunk here. It says, from childhood's hour, from the very first hour that he's been alive, he has not been as others were. Basically, he's saying he's different than other people. He has not seen as others saw. He doesn't see the world in the same way as other people do. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. He's saying that common spring is basically a way of saying that his thoughts didn't originate from the same places that other people's did, and that his passions since they didn't come from that same place that other people's passions do, he feels separate and disjointed and unconnected from everyone else. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. He's saying he can't be happy like everybody else. And all I loved alone. So everything he loved, they didn't love him back. which I think is talking about his experience with his former fiance. So he loved her, but he loved her alone. She didn't love him back. And then if we continue on through this he starts talking about here in this part where it starts repeating, which by the way is a literary device known as an anaphora, where the lines start with the same words. He starts repeating this, talking about how all of the other people in his life view this world as this gold-filled, lightning-filled, wonderful thing. However, and the sky is blue. However, for his view of the world, he has a demon in his mind. And so that demon could represent a lot of things. That's kind of up to your interpretation. I think that represents his loneliness in this case, and that's why the poem is called Alone. So after you guys finish watching this video, I want you to go and reread the poem for yourself and take a closer look at it. See what other things that you might notice. That's just kind of an overview. And then there's some questions that I want you to answer about this poem. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.